Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. This is the first episode, the pilot of a new series, a new podcast, which will explore the different elements of the classical music world. I will dive right into it so that you see what I am about to present to you in the next episodes as well, and I will give you a little bit more information at the end. This way we don't waste any time for now. The theme that I wanted to begin with is a topic that I find everybody knows very little of. And that is, what are the necessary elements for building a career? What does building a career really mean? And I say career, knowing that it is also a word that is not very liked. Or, shall I say it this way, it is easily used when we are young, and it's very disliked when we are older. And the reason for that is that we mistake career with the word path. A path in music is something we start young. A career in music is something we have built over decades. It is not synonymous with instant success, but it rather means one has managed to sustain, adapt along the way, and develop the path for decades. That's the difference. I will give you a visual image. A career, or a path in music, is like a highway. About 100 years ago, that highway only needed 3 lanes. Meanwhile, society and the music world has changed, and the highway nowadays is a several-lane highway. The first lane is talent, which is a given. It's a gift. A gift that comes with responsibility. It's not for us to enjoy, it's for us to do something with it. The second lane would be technique, which is a shared merit, mostly with a great teacher or with great teachers or mentors we have had. And the third lane would be personality. Artists that have remained in history and that had great careers, short or long ones, depending, were human beings with great personalities. It was part of the game. It was part of the thing that attracted the public, that attracted the Impresario in the first place to engage them. We will talk about the word impresario in another episode more in detail, because there's a past to it and there's a future to it, I think. This is my own conviction, of course, based on my experience in the music world, and where I think things will lead. And I think the circle will close, and the agent/the manager would eventually become an impresario again. So, about 100 years ago, these 3 elements were enough to build a path in music. We had huge personalities, which were great artists and mostly had great technique. But nowadays, there's a lot more elements that we need to integrate and to be aware of, to be conscious of, and to work with. The fourth lane of our highway is the creative mind, or the motor of the artist. When we meet and talk to an artist that gets in touch and is looking for an agency or is looking for a recording contract, the thing that we are looking for and looking at, both agents and recording colleagues, is the motor. We search, we try to figure out if we see it, if it is obvious that this person is thirsty, that this person is hungry for that which they claim they are here to do. Not resting on the talent, but having a mind which is constantly creating, thinking, wondering, this is a sure thing we can stand behind to help. Every human being comes with many qualities, flaws, possibilities to develop, with its own matrix, so to speak. It is the motor which tries to make the most of it and to create something unique and personally tailored. That is also part of the explanation why there are no 2 careers which are the same. There is a funny analogy we could use from astrology, and that is twins that arrive on this world with practically the same birth chart. because a few minutes might make absolutely no difference at all in the movement of the planets and their placement. No two twins will have the same life exactly or will experience life the same way exactly. The motor and some part of destiny will condition and influence their development. One element which some have lots of, some less and some none, is charisma. There are people who are naturally charismatic, sun people. It is easy for them to attract everyone around them. They come through the door and everybody looks at them. The sun shines, so to speak. However, charisma, unlike talent, it is also something we can work at, and it's something we can develop over time. The key, of course, when we want to achieve something is to be conscious if we have it or we don't have it in the first place. It's something to pay attention to. Most recently, I had a conversation with one of my artists. And in that conversation, I said, the reason I've been insisting for so many months on the concert attire is because I'm trying to create something superficial, which will eventually lead you into something that can become natural. Because when we wear something that makes us feel good, it has an influence on us. We look good, we feel good, we shine. After that, it's about recreating those feelings that we have become conscious of, and slowly we develop them. Another way would be to think of something that puts us in a good mood or makes us smile instantaneously right before we go on stage or we meet with people important for our path. For example, when I myself think of the words fun, freedom, adventure, these are the really only 4 words, and still it moves something in me instantaneously and something opens up in me. Same thing happens when dancing. Most people would smile right away when dancing. Charisma also has to do with the mind, not only with the physical aspect. It has to do with our intellectuality, with the things we know, with our interests and hobbies, with culture, the languages we speak, with being in a continuous education mode in our life. Being curious over a long career is a very important point, which in the end translates into the musician we grow into constantly. So, it is not only about playing, making music, conducting, composing, whatever it is we do on our music path. It is also about continuing to be a music student for as long as we want to make music for. And we also have interactions with people. During those interactions, many sides of us come out. A very precise example is the dinner after a concert, during which we see many things. We pay attention to other things in people different from those we have paid attention to on stage. The whole of us can create admiration for who we are. We can awaken interest and curiosity. If we don't work on ourselves and we don't constantly develop, it will be obvious at some point that there is an emptiness. This emptiness, when we are young, is filled by other things which are more instinctive. The youth has a lot to offer in that way, and that is always wonderful to see. But the older we get, the more the richness of us becomes very important. The more we know, and the more we know ourselves, the more we understand also the others. During personal interactions, all this becomes a very, very important element. An element which also plays a very important role often if we are going to be invited back or not. After a concert, most artists need to let the adrenaline come down to dissipate. It is so high that it needs a moment to just breathe and interact. It cannot just go to sleep right away. It's just mostly not the case. The dinners we go to are a social act which can be very enjoyable or not. Promoters, agents, artists have had all kinds of experiences. these interactions are important because they are in a way also part of the next invitation. I remember a very particular evening once after a concert which had been wonderful playing, wonderful quartet playing in this case. But one of the members was in a natural way, I would say, which is a pity, making everybody uncomfortable at dinner. So when we are in this kind of situation where there's a lot of uncomfortable moments, the memory of it can play a role when the question of another invitation is being raised. I'm not saying it should or it will, but I'm saying it can. Because in the end, we also, of course, depend on the humanity of the promoter. We depend on the development of the person that is in front of us. The more they know about themselves, the more they know about the world, the more they understand other people, the more they will be fluid and flexible. The less they know, the more they think they know, the less fluid and accommodating they will be. So these are important aspects also to consider. It's not all about how the concert went. Most of it should be about how the concert went, but other elements can play a role, and they definitely play this role. If not in the dinner after concert, they play a role long term, year after year. If you look around the music business, you will hardly find an important artist, a senior artist, who is not a great personality. There is almost no one. And if there is, it will be the exception which confirms the rule. Great artists that we have are very developed human beings. And we cannot start developing at 50 or at 60 years of age. This is something we have to do from the very beginning. And it will be obvious in our interactions with other human beings if we work on ourselves or not. We cannot just talk only about music. We talk about all kinds of things. And that's actually the point. We should be able to talk about all kinds of things. So it is our duty, regardless of it, we are performing artists, if we are an agent, if we are a programmer, it is our duty as human beings to constantly educate ourselves. Continuous education is therefore very important for performing artists as well. And I say performing artists, but of course it's good for composers, it goes for conductors, it goes for everybody who makes a path in music, who chooses a path in music. As a musician, reading only about music or studying only scores is not an option. We cannot develop fully if we do just that. At a certain moment on our path, working with an agent / a manager and being part of an agency becomes necessary in an important milestone. This is mostly not at the very beginning. It does take a few years to build up on our way, firstly, for a performing instrumentalist or conductor. We will talk again in detail about what the profession of an agent, a manager is, and what it takes. But it is an important decision that comes at some point, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the lane. One important thing I would say up front is that the role of an agent, and that's the reason also it doesn't come at the very beginning of our path, the role of an agent is not to pull. It is not about having 200 horsepower in front of us. It's to push. This is a very different concept. You can think of it more like a plane going from Paris to Tokyo. If you have a good wind, you will get there half an hour in advance, maybe even more. It's the same with music management. We are here to support and push and to take care of a very important thing, which is called strategy. Strategy has to do with adjusting, developing, and playing with all the elements that are part of our highway in such a way over a long period of time that we keep the development of every single line in sight. Picking the right agency and the right agent to work with is, of course, a big task and a big moment and a very important moment for a musical path. And here we come back to the aspect of understanding ourselves and understanding others, because this will influence our ability to make the right choices. Working with an agency is a bit like an arranged marriage, because it is a marriage. It's supposed to be a relationship which is almost an intimate relationship. because we touch each other's vulnerability often. Only like that we can really achieve great work together. And in order to do that with somebody we don't know in the first place, we have to use our gut feeling and we have to trust it. We won't always get it right, but the more we know about ourselves, the more we will be able to recognize things in the other and make better choices. The world of recordings has changed tremendously over the last 6 decades, and it continues to change. A lot more than the performing scene, I would say. Before, one would be spotted by an impresario, make a record, and with the right catch, success would happen. Royalties and concerts would start coming in. Nowadays, one can release a record every 6 months, have literally millions of listeners on the digital platforms, and still earn very little in royalties. Besides the fact that it can actually make almost no impact on the concert scene. This lane is a difficult one, and we need to understand the past and foresee and adapt to the future in order to make the right choices. Navigating between legacy, the visit card aspect of a recording, and the artistic development of an artist needs studying. This is a big topic to go into. Back in the days, at the beginning of the recording era, we started with a connection between the recording itself and the corresponding concerts. And at this very moment, we seem to be at the high peak of a complete disconnection between these two lanes of our highway. The main reason? Very different business models. But there are other reasons as well. It's an incredibly difficult platform to judge because in this streaming era, the actual real results of recording are eclipsed. We in the classical world think of recording as a full CD recording, as a concept and as a project. In the streaming reality, often we have 1 or 2 tracks which lead the streams. Meaning that we need to recognize the fact that sometimes, just like in the pop world, one single, one track on the CD is the winning horse and not the CD, not the whole recording itself. There is a smoke effect here which creates an optical illusion. The numbers of streams can give an incredibly positive effect on how one CD or several CDs are doing on the market. But behind the screen of smoke, the reality remains that the listeners have only listened to 1 or 2 tracks for billions of clicks. We agents need to have these conversations with our artists, not to depress them, but for them to be aware and yes, in a way also to keep the ego out of play here. Because a reality check once in a while is a very healthy thing and it allows for more constructive work together. Artist and agent, which again allows for better strategical work for the future. We can use any reality to do good work and make the right decisions, and we should because even this streaming period will not last forever. One good thing about these drastic changes of the recording medium, like the ones from LP to CD and from CD to digital and streaming, means also that a lot of the legacy gets lost on the way, which automatically makes space for newer recordings again. In order to balance and complete the streaming reality nowadays within the strategic work with the performing artist is not easy, and we need to be creative. It's not an easy task. The video aspect has become increasingly important in classical music as well. An image is also here worth 1,000 words. Promoters and presenters cannot travel all the time to hear someone. In fact, they hardly travel at all to hear someone, and they rely on what is available online. We need to take care of what is available online, as if it was our appearance. Again, the first impression stays with us very often. And what is available online and the way it's presented is the first impression. It is very disconcerting when someone gets in touch asking for representation, sending videos which are 12 years old or cut into pieces with specific phrases from different symphonies. How could We expect any manager or promoter to want to engage into a conversation with a musician who has not developed musically for 12 years and who, it seems, is only able to conduct bits and pieces of a symphony. Then we have, of course, all the modern elements of our highway, some of which did not exist 100 years ago. Social media is, of course, one of them. And again, we need to teach ourselves, we need to learn the skills. We have to speak to the right people also about how to use them and what to do with them. Some of us are more natural to using social media than others, but it doesn't mean that if we are not so natural at it or we don't like it, we should completely ignore it. There is a certain coming out of your comfort zone implied here, and there is some effort to be made because it is part of the life we lead nowadays, and it's part of a public life that we lead nowadays. It is not necessary to do social media to an extreme, but completely ignoring it is also something questionable. Just to give you an example, most promoters that would invite somebody for a concert work with social media. So, if an artist says, yeah, but I don't do social media, it is a very hard response to work with an organization. Of course, the social media and marketing department is not a department that decides who gets invited. But in all organizations, there will be regular meetings with everybody. So this kind of comment, oh yeah, him, her, they don't do any social media. We asked for a little help and there was none, and they couldn't even place the concert on their website. This kind of thing goes a long way, and it can put stones on our path as a performing musician if we don't at least consider the possibility of working with these elements. To which extension is a choice. How much time we want to invest, even money sometimes, this is a choice. We can speak about it in another episode, but it's definitely an important lane on our highway for the time being. Something to consider and to work with. The same goes for press. The press has existed before, but has also changed tremendously in the last decades. It works differently. It's a lot more digital, of course. Same goes for marketing. There are many, many things that we should be aware of. And this podcast exists also for this kind of topics, which are not so easy to navigate without the necessary information. A very important element is, of course, luck. Like Mitsuko Uchida once said, you must be lucky. And it is true. There's a certain luck which is ours, which will always give a color to the path we are on and to the development of that path. But again, it does take all the other elements to know what to do with that luck. We might be very lucky in meeting the right people at the right moment. But if we don't consciously work with it and we just let it happen, we might use just 20% of that opportunity. And this again takes strategy. It takes thinking on a regular basis. How does my highway look like? What do I need to adjust or to improve? I think any artist, it doesn't matter which age and at which moment of their career, should, on a regular basis, stop the automatic pilot, sit down, reflect upon and consider these questions. How is it going in general? How is this element of my highway going? How is this other element going? How is my agency going? How are my social media going? How are my recordings going? Do I need more press? Do I need to be more proactive in being in touch with the people I know? What can I do better? Living with this kind of visual, I would say, our visual highway, the way I call it, and looking at it on a regular basis is what will keep us going and push us into the next level. Because there is one concept about development we need to understand. A career is an enterprise, and there is a golden rule for any enterprise, and that is, if we don't constantly develop a little bit, It doesn't have to be much, and has to be just a little bit constantly. If we just continue doing the same thing we have always done, again and again, no matter at which excellent level, the optical illusion from the outside will be that we go a step back. So in order to push a career go forward, which will influence all the people involved in the career at the moment when they make decisions, for this we need to constantly go a little step forward every single season. Here's another analogy I can think of to help you visualize this. We can imagine that a path in music is a laboratory. Before, we only had 3 test tubes: talent, technique, and personality. Nowadays, if we count, maybe we come up to 10. The first 3 elements will still be maybe 50-60% of what it takes to build a career. But we have to divide the rest of the test tubes in the 40-50% of the work we need to do. And in order to create our magic potion, we have to constantly check and be attentive to where the percentages are in every test tube. And when one dries out, we need to stop once in a while to say, okay, could we revive this one? Is there something that I could do better with this other one? It is, of course, in a way, easier to work with the social media tube, because we can also ask and pay somebody to do it for us. But when we work with the test tube that has to do with who we are, a human being, and our own development, then we really need to come out of comfort zone. We cannot be the same person over and over again, decade after decade, and expect a different outcome, be it musical or personal. Being attentive and constantly on the look of what one could do better, which category is lacking a little bit of work, where could one invest more time and sometimes a little bit of money to improve, is what strategy means. Working with strategy is also of essence. It's not just about getting a concert and going to play and going to perform. Strategy over a long time is that which will give us and the world around us the impression that our career advances all the time. It doesn't need huge advancements, no, it needs just tiny little steps forward, which are achieved by always being attentive to keeping all test tubes at the best levels we can manage to keep them at. The contrary of this is when you go on automatic pilot and you think, okay, I have talent, I have an agency, a recording label, and everything is fine, we just go on. Maybe it is fine for the time being, but we can never forget this is an enterprise, and even if we keep doing the same thing at the highest possible level, our career will go backwards. We have to divide our time, not only into the time we spend with music, but also in the time we speak to our agent, in the time we analyze, in the time we work on ourselves, and the time we look for the right clothing we are going to wear. Musicians are public figures. We are not anymore in the era where most of the music happened on the radio. It didn't matter back then what we were wearing. And still, everybody showed up well dressed at the radio for the live broadcast. Remember the part about looking good, feeling good. It also sends the message to our audience. This is important for me and I make an effort. All of the above brings us to the idea of Darwin and his definition of those who will make it. Because in the end, it's not about talent, it's not about charisma, it's not about agency, it's not about the label, it's not about any one of these elements we've spoken about. In the end, it is really about being responsive to change. This is the key element of a long-lasting career. If you look around the music world and at the great personalities we have, those that have been making music but for the past 50 and 60 years, and we do have very admirable examples of it, you will see exactly this. They have been able to adjust to change over several decades, decade after decade. The difficulty nowadays is that the world goes much faster than it did 50 years ago. That's also true. So it challenges us to change on an even faster pace. Or if not to change, at least to be aware of what it asks from us and be aware of the things that happen in society and therefore in the music world. On top of all this, we can't forget that life on Earth includes parents, family, children, partners, marriages and divorces, friends, good health, sickness, sometimes also death. This too is part of our life, and the way it runs in parallel to our professional purpose will have an influence one way or another on our path. Life experience helps the development of formal elements of our laboratory. Joy, loving, being in love and being loved change us. Sadness, grief and resolved or unresolved trauma affect who we are becoming. Our musicianship, charisma and wiseness depend on our living experience and how we process it. Mission, purpose. Why am I doing this? I have been teaching for about a decade, and I find there is a moment in life when the word transmission becomes important. And I think it should become important in almost anything we do. So for me, it's about that. And I think that the way we learn nowadays and the way we teach nowadays has changed and should continue to change. And this is a little bit my answer to the question of transmission, the whys and the hows. So much for today. Thank you for being here and for listening. Feel free to subscribe and to share. I think especially of music students around you and young musicians building a path in music who might benefit from the information we'll be sharing here on many and very different topics around the world of classical music. You can also leave questions in the comments below, things that you wonder about or that you are interested to know about. I will be doing shorter jam sessions between the actual episodes answering these questions. Thank you again, and I hope you will be with us for the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.